Florida homeowners, this could be one of the biggest property tax changes that we've seen in decades. But before we dive into what's being proposed, let's break down a little bit more about this tax system and how it works for current homeowners, future buyers, and then investment property owners as well. Governor Ron DeSantis has proposed a constitutional amendment that will significantly increase Florida's homestead exemption. The goal of this amendment is to help lower property taxes for all these homeowners. However, there's still a question as far as how that lost revenue is going to be replaced. So before we get into that discussion, let's talk about what property taxes actually are. Property taxes are the money that we as homeowners pay to help fund the communities that we live in. They pay for police, fire department, roads, libraries, schools, and more. So one thing people don't realize is that property taxes are not usually assessed on your property's full market value. Instead, they're based on the assessed value of the property after any exemptions that you currently qualify for. So what is homestead exemption? If you own your own home and it's your primary residence, Florida gives you homestead exemption. And what that does is it reduces the amount of value that's actually taxed on your home. So the smaller your taxable value is, the lower your property bill usually becomes. Many homeowners don't realize that the homestead exemption is not the only tax break available. Depending on your situation, you might be eligible for additional exemptions that reduce your overall assessment even further. So for instance, Florida offers additional exemptions for some seniors, disabled veterans, legally blind residents. And so it's definitely worth checking in with your property appraiser to see what additional exemptions you might qualify for. Once your taxable value is determined, the local government applies what they call a millage rate. So think of the millage rate as a tax rate applied to your taxable value. So let's use the city of Oviedo for this example. The current city of Oviedo's millage rate is 5.96 mils, which equates to $5.96 for every $1,000 of taxable value. Now remember, that's the city of Oviedo's only portion of that tax bill. Your other property taxes are inclusive of Seminole County Public Schools, the St. John's Water District Management, and any other local taxes that are going to be applied. Now here's why the homestead exemption is extremely important. Overall, when you're applying the same millage rate to a lower value, you're going to be saving money on your annual tax bill. So Governor Ron DeSantis is proposing an amendment that's going to increase the Florida homestead exemption. So what does the Florida homestead exemption look like today? If any homeowner qualifies for an assessed value of $75,000 or more, they get the full $50,000 exemption on their tax bill. Under Florida law, the property tax exemption applies in two parts. The first $25,000 exemption applies to all property taxes, including school taxes. The second $25,000 exemption applies to other property taxes that does not include school taxes. So for many Florida homeowners today, the maximum exemption amount is $50,000. Now imagine if it was no longer $50,000. What if it was $150,000 or even $250,000 for this exemption? That's exactly what this amendment is asking homeowners right now in Florida to consider. If this constitutional amendment passes, our homestead exemption amount will increase significantly. Beginning in 2027, the proposed amount for this exemption would go up to $150,000. Then in 2028, it will increase again to $250,000. In simple terms, a much larger portion of your property's value will no longer be taxed by local governments. There is one important exception. If you become a Florida homeowner after January 1st of 2027, you are only eligible for the $50,000 homestead exemption, and you have to wait 5 years before you can qualify for the higher amount. This proposal mainly impacts primary residences. So second homes, investment properties, they do not qualify for the higher amount. So what are the potential benefits? As a homeowner, you're going to save more money on your annual tax bill, which of course overall makes home ownership way more affordable. For future homeowners, this is going to lower your overall monthly payment, therefore making owning a home way more affordable. The other side to that conversation is figuring out how local governments are going to replace that lost revenue, because running a city doesn't get less expensive just by cutting property tax bills. So, this proposal is not about eliminating taxes. It's just rearranging how they're going to be paid, who's going to pay them, and then how the local governments are going to continue to fund the services that we rely on. I hope this was helpful to break down a simple topic that sometimes can be very confusing. If you're a current homeowner, a future homeowner, or you just like staying informed, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. My goal is to increase your confidence when making decisions in the world of real estate. Again, thank you for watching. I'm Sabrina Pacini, your friend in real estate.